Yo, what's up, guys? Focus, and we're kind of back on some Escape from Tarkov. So basically, we talked a little bit ago. I uploaded a video about player scavs. Now, I've gotten some mixed results on them. I've gotten a lot of people saying that they're sick and tired of them. Not necessarily that they have to go away, but something needs to be changed. And I've gotten a lot of people saying that there needs to be nothing changed to the player scav because that's how players get their gear. Some things about soft caps. Then I've got some people talking about like a karma system and everything. We're going to try and keep the video kind of brief, but everyone knows that I kind of ramble on. We're going to talk about just certain things that I think would help fix the player scav, dilemma that we're in right now. Because back in the day, whenever there wasn't as much of a player base, we never really had to worry about player scavs as much. And now you get into a raid and you may see 4 or 5 PMCs, and then 18 or 19 scav players. And it's just like an issue that keeps just growing and growing and growing. It's like a virus, and it just keeps spreading and getting worse and worse. So here's what I think may limit that. All right, now moving over to why I think player scavs are an issue right now. And now any of you OG players are going to be able to relate to this because I'm going to go back to many wipes ago, back in the early beta stages right after alpha. So all you newcomers are not going to understand what I'm talking about. But the player scav actually was not really used for a fighting tool. You didn't just scav in to wipe out everybody in the server, If you were a player scav, if you got one PMC kill, that was considered a success because your loadout was so dog shit. And basically what I want to say with that is you spawn with a Makarov or a Grok or a P22 probably 90% of the time. And SKS if you were lucky, but everything else was pretty much just super rare. The AK scav was unheard of. And now it is so common. As a matter of fact, it's more rare to spawn with a pistol than it is to spawn with a rifle, which I think is part of the problem. And again, I know you newcomers are going to be like, well, how else am I supposed to kill a PMC? Well, let's go back to the reason Battlestate had the scav. It's in the name. It's scavenger. That's the reason for the scav. You're supposed to go into the map and scavenge for loot. Now, I had a guy comment on one of my videos, and he said that he didn't want player scavs. He was sick and tired of player scavs because he went to go ditch his buddy's gear, and the guys that he killed was wiped out clean. I think that is a perfect representation of how a scav should be played. I don't think a scav should be played by running around and killing every PMC that he sees, because I think that's totally asinine, and I don't think that's how Battlestate intended the scav to be used. But because it's a free set of gear, that's how everybody uses it. Now, I don't say if you get into a fight with a PMC to just run away and back down because you're a scav, you're not supposed to fight. No, absolutely not. You're supposed to fight. You're supposed to get in there and try and kill them. That's the reason for the scav. If you die, you didn't lose any gear. But the main purpose is getting in the map, search around for dead bodies. Maybe you can snag a gun. If you snag a nice gun and go out and PMC hunt, it doesn't really matter. But really the sole goal, the purpose of it was to scavenge the map, grab leftovers, and pretty much try and extract. Because in the purpose of this, you had insurance and whatnot. So they said, well, if a player scav comes into the map, then they're going to be able to search around for some of that ditch gear to maybe, prevent a PMC from getting back insurance. Or maybe search around for some of that ditch gear, or maybe search around some of the dorms and search those open doors that other PMCs didn't search or they overlooked, and grab some of that. And with nowadays, there's more of that survival element with the energy going down and water going down, and you have to replenish it. So searching all those little nooks and crannies is actually beneficial. So the player scav that's what it's designed to do. That's what it's intended for, but it's not used that way. It's used as a tool. It's used as a killing machine, and that's not how Battlestate intended it to be. Another issue that I have that we'll just sum it up and make it quick is I think the sheer number of player scavs is absolutely horrible. I don't believe that there should be, 10, 20, however many plus scavs, player scavs running around on a map like customs. It's so small and linear that if you have that many player scavs, it gets bogged down, and you tend to lose focus of the actual gameplay when it's PMC versus PMC. You're constantly having to look over your back for a player scav, which I don't think is always bad, because I think you need to be aware whenever you're playing, regardless of any character, whether it's a PMC or a player scav. But I do think that those numbers need to be lowered significantly because it doesn't really experience what you're supposed to. It doesn't really enhance the gameplay. It kind of takes away from it whenever you're constantly having to worry about somebody who's just walking around free. Alright, now let's talk about how we fix this player scav issue, this pandemic that's going on right now around Tarkov. So the most obvious and the most clear for people, because it's been mentioned before, is a karma system. Now, Not much has been said about the karma system, but I have my own take on it. I've been thinking about it for a week or so now, and I think a lot of things should be affected by the player scav. I personally think that your player scav should have more of an impact on the game if they want to keep it in the game, because now people just use it as a get out of jail free card, and I think that that shouldn't be the case. So just specifically talking about the karma system, I think that a couple things need to happen. Obviously, we need a good and bad karma scale. That's a given. And when you first start the game on a fresh wipe and your character is level 0, or your player scav is level 0, whatever you want, it needs to be obviously in a neutral basis. So just kind of a standard. Now I'm not really going to touch bases too much on the neutral side of it because I don't really play with numbers. I'm not a game dev, so there obviously can fill in the blanks on that. Maybe we'll discuss another video in the future about neutral. But basically, we're just going to be talking about the extremes, the good and the bad. First thing I think should happen, obviously, is a better starting loadout. So I talked about how the loadouts are, night and day different than what they used to be. I think that the better your karma is, which means you kill less player scavs and less scavs, the better your loadout is. So that means if you have a really good loadout and you go, ooh, I'm able to kill more PMCs because killing PMCs doesn't affect your karma system on your scav. So the higher your karma system is, or the higher your karma level is, or point-wise, however they want to balance the numbers out, you have a better starting loadout. So all those SA-58s and AKs and things of the nature you get on your player scav if your karma is higher. So the more player scavs you kill, the more AI scavs you kill, the worse you're going to have as a karma loadout. So you're going to be spawning more with Makarovs and shit like that. Also, I think it should affect your timer. So the worse your karma system is, or the worse your karma is, or the better your karma is, will differentiate between your timer. So if you have really good karma, then you can play as a player scav more frequently. And this also takes an effect based off your hideout, because you can level up your intelligence, and then that will make your player scav timer 30% less at max level. So I think that should also play in factor. If your karma is like max, as worse as it can get, I think that 30% bonus to the minus on player scav should be completely ignored. I don't think you should even take that into account if your karma system is so bad. But obviously, just a shorter time frame on your player scav should be taken in effect based off the karma system. Okay, now a lot of people may disagree with me on this one, but I think this should also take an effect. So whenever you get into your hideout, you can go over to the scav case and you pay a certain amount, ranging from a small amount to specific items, and it does vary based off of events, as we saw in the Christmas event that Battlestate did. I think that this should also be affected by your player scav, because it is a scav case, so you do tell a scav to go out and find you some gear. So the better your karma is, then the better your items you are received from your scav loot. And also it should reduce the time, not by a great amount, but maybe like if your karma system's really good, make it like a 5%. That may not seem like a lot, but based off a 4-hour time frame, that knocks off quite a few minutes. So we should make that also be affected by the player scav. So like I said, higher your karma. If you decide to drop in the 70,000 rubles, you have a higher chance of finding better gear versus somebody with a negative karma, and it also takes longer. And I've been doing some more brainstorming, but just to keep the video kind of minimal, since we've already gone on a decent time, I think that also in raid stuff that should be affected, the most notable one and the biggest one I think should be, aside from the loadout, is if your karma is in good standing, as you walk by an AI scav, they should be attracted to you almost like a magnet. So they want to follow you around almost as like a guard, like a protection system. So you have more AI scavs around you to where you can detour and, lure PMCs around, and or make them go a certain path, and or know if they're around you if they kill. So you can either hide and or take, an ambush setting. And also, if your karma is negative, then I think that AI scavs should shoot and kill you on sight. So you're not able to walk up to sniper scav with that Mosin and say, I'm going to shoot him in the head, kill him, take the Mosin, and then go out and kill PMCs. So the more negative it is, scavs will shoot you on sight. Now, again, this is just some small brainstorming. We can come up with a whole lot more. I have a lot more on my list that I'd like to talk about. A more notable one that we can throw out real quick is just your overall health system. So the worse your karma system is, the higher chance you have to spawn hungry, the higher chance you have to spawn thirsty, or the higher chance you have to spawn with maybe a bleeding effect or a broken limb. Now, the bleeding or broken limb effect, actual ailments to your body, like to your person, I think should be like way, way down in the karma system, and I think it should be a lower percent chance chance, because the spawn in bleeding without a bandage is kind of shit. Or maybe if you do spawn in bleeding, they always give you a bandage, but you have to go ahead and use it and get that out of your inventory. And with the fracture thing, I don't know if that's really a great idea, but I'm just, throwing out some brainstormings for battle state to maybe take into account for. Now, I don't want to make the bad karma 100% negative, because really, that would make it, no point to play the bad karma. But at the same time, everything that's listed below may seem like a big kick in the face to the bad karma side, but that's how a regular community would respond if all you did was run around and kill all the other people a part of the community. So I think everything right there is justified. I want there to be more negative traits in the bad karma, hence the name for bad karma. But a good thing that can be added with bad karma, I think, that I think would be nice if they implemented, is even though your overall loadout may be worse, you have a higher chance to spawn in with better items. So with that said, you have a higher chance to spawn in with maybe keys, because sometimes you do spawn in with reserve keys or custom keys or shoreline keys. So the worse your karma is, the higher chance you have to spawn in with such items, and maybe a higher chance to spawn in with stuff in your backpack, maybe like just the cigarettes, just miscellaneous items that can be put into your scav box, stuff like that, paracord. So some of those higher tier items that would otherwise be found in raid and some of the better areas are now easily obtained through bad karma scavs. Another thing I think that should favor the negative karma or the bad karma player scav is extractions. I believe that if you have a negative karma aspect on you, you should be able to have a wider range of extractions versus someone with good karma. I think that if you have a good karma only, you have to extract at higher populated scav areas. So for example, ice cream. And over there by the customs warehouse, actually extract inside the warehouse next to the other scavs, or maybe by the storage. And on the other side, at checkpoint, you have very few extraction points that you have to get to with more AI scavs that is more out in the open and more chance to get killed by PMCs. Versus a negative scav, negative karma scav, you should have a wider range of extractions that are more hidden and more secretive and off the beaten path, and there should be almost double the extraction points. Alright fellas, I am going to end the video here. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it, and please definitely message me on Discord, message me over on Patreon, however it's the easiest way for you to contact me. Comment down below on maybe some additional things, or maybe some things that you agree with or maybe don't agree with. This is just my overall opinion on things. I just definitely think there should be a karma system on the scav side of it. I don't necessarily think there should be a karma system on the PMC side, because for you to not shoot a USEC that is geared next to you is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. There's really no way to differentiate between the two unless you're talking, and 99% of people do not use emotes and speech inside the game. And I know there'll be VoIP later on, but as of right now, how it stands, if they were to add a karma system for both scav and PMCs, PMC side would greatly suffer, and I guarantee over 90% of all players that play PMCs would be on the negative karma aspect. So I'm curious to see how they take that approach, because I know it's not just going to be a run and gun and kill all PMCs when the game is fully released. But as of right now, I definitely think they need to do something with the player scav side of it. Maybe not go as far in depth as I was talking, because I know it's a lot to take in for a game developer, but definitely little steps at a time to move right in the perfect direction for player scavs. Anyway, hit that like button, subscribe, share if you want to, and as always, enjoy.
I'm on my own, broken alone. I feel the rain crashing down all around this empty town. I'm searching for the lost and found, but you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air like a blazing flare. Don't stare, 'cause the flames will burn us. I thought you were the one for me, that's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me. like shadows in the atmosphere, charting the stratosphere.